Welcome to Groves Automotive. Today, what I'm going to be showing you is some tricks and some special things we do to mount a large truck tire and make it a little bit easier for you. All right, so let's jump in, let's get started. First thing we do is just cut the box open. And after we do that, we're going to open up the box, get the top off. Take this first piece of cardboard out, just kind of trash it, we're not going to use it anymore. And then we're going to take off the plastic. You're going to notice every new wheel, aftermarket, factory, it doesn't really matter what it is, it's going to come packaged up pretty nicely. So there's going to be a lot of stuff you're going to need to cut off. So after we get all this new packaging off, you're going to actually be able to see the face of your wheel. This is a large truck wheel here, so this is fairly heavy. This weighs about 50 pounds. We're gonna get it out, and after that, we're gonna take our box, get it on the ground. All right, so after we've got our box on the floor and stuff, we're gonna need to put our valve stem in. For the valve stem, you need to find on the inside of the wheel, you need to find the hole for the valve stem where it goes. And then they make a special little tool, just like this. So you put it in from the inside, going to the outside, and then you grab it. On the outside, this tool's got a special little thread thing that just threads up on the valve stem. So after you get it screwed on there, basically take it and pop it down just like that. It takes a little bit of force, but after you pull it down, it'll seat, and your valve stem is now installed. All right, so now what we want to do is we're going to take our wheel, and we want to go ahead and install it on the mounting machine. So what I like to do is I like to get it in 2 chucks on each side, and then watch the other 2. When I hit my button to bring it in, just like that. So now the wheel is secure to the mounter. The next thing we want to do is we want to get our tire up here now that our valve stem is installed, and that's the next step. So let's go ahead and get our tire up. And now we want to take this is called tire paste. This is essentially a lube, and what it does is it lubricates this bead right here. This bead right here is really important because it mats up with this lip on the side of the wheel. You've got to seat your bead. So the reason you need a little bit of lube is because when it applies air pressure, this rubber is really, really grippy. And it'll grip this it'll grip this slick surface of the wheel. So what we want to do, open up our lube, get our lube applier, take a little bit just like this, and go around on the bead of the tire. If you take your time doing this, it'll make the wheel just slide right on. You won't really have any difficulty at all. But if you don't put enough, you'll be fighting yourself, and you'll be taking the tire back off the wheel and adding a little bit more lube. So once one side's done, you step over to the other side, lube up the other side. And once you got both mating surfaces lubed up well, it's now time to install the tire to the wheel. What I like to do, on most of your tires, there is a red dot, a green dot, some type of coloring marking on the outside, and that's where you need to line it up with the valve stem. So let's look and see where our mark is. And it's about lined up right there. And now, I'm going to walk over to this side. Now what I'm going to do is pull down this side of the tire to expose the rim right here. And I want to slide this in now and push it down to where it mats flush against the rim and this part of the tire mounter. Now what I want to do is I want to pull this side right here to where it's above this part of the tire mounter. And then this other side, I want it to be down. So we're just going to get it started and give the machine a quick little turn. As you can see, it's physically pulling the tire down in the bead. You want to keep going around. And now our tire is installed on our wheel. The next step now is to take the wheel and the tire off of the tire mounter and get it in the floor so you can fill your tire up with some air. So what I like to do, especially on these big heavy truck wheels, is grab the inside of the tire and hit the release to allow the clamps to decompress. Now we're gonna roll it over. Now that we've got our tire mounted on our wheel, the next step is gonna be to grab your air hose, take it down, and start putting some air inside your wheel and tire now. So you can physically see it inflating. It's gonna pop around the bead just like it did, and the bead's seated now. And on these truck wheels, generally what I like to do, 35 pounds is good to make sure the bead's seated, but on these truck wheels, I like to put about 45 or 50 pounds in them. This is going on a Power Stroke diesel Ford truck, so it's gonna run about 50 pounds of pressure regardless. Now in these truck tires specifically, it's a lot better to take your valve stems out. That way you can inject air into your tire and fill it up a lot quicker. If you leave your valve stem in, it'll take 2 or 3 minutes to get air in there. If you take your valve stem out, it'll cut about 2 minutes out of that process. It only takes about 30 seconds. You'll notice when I take this air hose off, it's gonna emit a lot of air out. But what I'm gonna do is quickly put my valve stem in and it'll cap it back off. No more air's coming out, and our tire now has a good seal. The next step in your mounting and balancing process is to move over to the balancer. But before we can do that, I've got to take this cap off. So get your Allen key that fits and go ahead and start unscrewing this cap. Now be careful because this is plastic and it's really, really easy to break. Now on these fuel wheels, there's 2 of these little screws. There's one at the top, and then there's going to be another one at the bottom. And you notice, once I start taking the bottom, the cap just starts to fall off. So grab the cap, make sure you don't scratch your wheels. So now we're going to start balancing this wheel. First thing you do, start by lifting it up and just setting it on the balancer like that. Now once we've got our wheel on our balancer, we're going to take our big balancer cone, put on the center shaft of the balancer, and then we're going to take the rest of the pieces and go ahead and spin it up just like that until it about hits the wheel. And now we're going to want to do, this is difficult because this wheel is fairly heavy, we're going to want to take the wheel and get it up on the big balancer cone. And then after that, we're going to want to walk the wheel onto the balancer until it's tight. It's going to be multiple threads, so we'll keep going. Now these big wheels, it's imperative to make sure you've got the wheel tight on the balancer so it doesn't wobble or have any shakes. Give it a good little shake as you're trying to tighten it. And that tells you really confidently that your wheels on the balancer tight. The next step, once we get our wheel tight on our balancer, there's no more play, we have everything tight. We're gonna give it a good spin and then hit this start button. And basically what this is gonna do is this machine is gonna find the imperfection and balance in this wheel and tire and figure out where we need to put some weight to make sure it's balanced when you're on the highway, when you're above 60 miles an hour. So it's calling for 2 1/4 ounce on the very inside. And the reason it's not calling for any weight on the outside is because the way I like to do aftermarket wheels to keep my customers happy, to where they don't see any weights on the outside, is to do what's called a stagger balance. A stagger balance is only putting weights on the inside. Now this machine is smart and it knows when it stagger balances these wheels to compensate for not putting any weight on the outside. So it knows 2 1/4 ounces will balance this wheel. So let's go ahead and find what we need to find. 7.5. Now once we've spun our wheel on our balancer and our balancer knows how much weight it calls for, it's calling for 2 1/4 ounces. So what we're going to do now is we're going to spin this wheel until all 4, we get a whole line, solid line right there. Half a line means you're close. As you notice we spin it, you get farther and farther away. When we get a full line, that's where it wants the weight. Now I'm going to want to lean my body into the wheel so it doesn't rotate around on us. I'm going to take my 2 weights to get 2 1/4 ounces. I'm going to put them right at the dead top in the center of the balancer. So now that I got them on there, they're good knocked on there, we're gonna give our tire another rotation and hit this start button and see if our wheel's actually balanced. It's balanced, so that means we're good to go. We can now take this wheel and tire off of this balancer, take it over to our truck and install it. We're finished mounting and balancing our wheel now. I hope you guys enjoyed what you saw here today. If you did, be sure to hit that like button below. Also, be sure to click subscribe so you can see anytime we put out new content, you guys will be notified. Thanks for watching, and be sure to stick around for more.